So a lot of people are confused about Ahmadiyya and Islam Ahmadiyya. Is there a difference? Is there a difference in Islam Ahmadiyya? What exactly?
So Ahmadiyya Islam is not a new religion. That's the first thing to state. It is the same religion of Islam that was given to the world by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In fact, it is the only community in Islam today that can legitimately hold that position, and we'll go into that why a bit later on. The use of a term to signify a new community does not always signify something which is, in a sense, an innovation. Sometimes you can use a name to assert a restatement of the original aims of the religion when those aims have become distorted by the passage of time and innovations. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had two names. His names were Muhammad, which is the commonly known name of his, but he had another name as well, which was Ahmad. And Muhammad and Ahmad are two very beautiful names. Muhammad means the one who is most praised, and Ahmad is the inverse of that, and so it means the one who is the best in praising or loving another. And so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he prophesied that in the latter days it would be the name Ahmad that would shine forth, and it would be the name Ahmad which would colour the hue of Islam in the latter days. And we can go again why into that a little bit later. But no, Ahmadiyya Islam is the restatement of the true and noble teachings of Islam, shorn of innovations and free from distortions that have come upon the faith, unfortunately, over the last 13 to 1400 years.
So how is this different to other sects claiming that they are trying to, revive Islam, or they are on the right path?
So, everybody has the right to claim that they are on the right path. The question is, as the promised Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be on him, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community said, everybody, can claim that they love Allah, but the question is, who is it that Allah loves? Okay? And the same goes in a sense for the question of which community is the reviver of Islam, or which community is the true picture of Islam. Many communities can claim, yes, we are the ones who are returning to the original teachings of Islam. The most commonly known and best perhaps example these days in the modern era is the Salafi movement. The Salafi movement hails from a community which claimed to be from the Salaf, which in other words from the original practices of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his community of companions. Right? But in actual fact, the true movement to bring about the Reformation of Islam can only be the movement that is appointed and directed by God himself. It is not a worldly movement, because Islam is not a worldly religion. They are not the caretakers of Islam. God is the caretaker of Islam. And so the question is what is the movement that God has instituted to revive the teachings of Islam? Is there anything in the literature of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his sayings, in his statements, or indeed in the Quran, which talk about how the faith would be revived and safeguarded by God? And what is the form that would take? Because we know what it says in the Quran. It says, most surely we have sent down this exhortation, and most surely we will be its guardian. That's God speaking. Now, the guardian of the faith isn't just the one who preserves the text. It's also the one who preserves the correct interpretation of it, right? And the correct exposition of it, and the correct practice of it. That's also, most importantly actually, in many respects, it's one very important aspect, as well as preservation of the text. Muslims like to say, well, our text is very nicely preserved. It's preserved like in no other religious text, and that's absolutely true. We have the original Quran of the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But the question is where is the preservation of the practice, the preservation of the ideas, the preservation of the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about whom it was said by his wife, Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, that his character was the Quran. So the question is, what is the prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as to how the Quran's interpretation and practice would be revived and safeguarded? And he very clearly stated, he said, after him would be a series of mujaddids. Mujaddid means a reformer at the head of every century. And then in other hadith, he stated very clearly that a time would come upon Islam. This is in Mishkat al-Masabi. It states, there will come a time upon Islam when nothing will remain of it except its name. Nothing will remain of the Quran except its inscription. Mosques, though full, will be empty of guidance, and the ulama, the religious clergy of Islam, would be the worst creatures under heaven. Strife will issue from them and will return to them.
Sounds a bit like the situation today, isn't it?
It's exactly the situation of today. And he said that at that time, who would it be who revived the faith? Would it be a community of ulama who come together and say, you know what, we've decided to create a movement called the Salafi or the Brelvi or the Deobandi or the Wahhabi? No. He said that at that time, they'll be sent down upon Muslims. The Masih will appear, the Messiah of Islam, and the Imam Mahdi.
Yeah.
And in many narrations, he explained that these are two titles for the same person. Okay. You know, Ibn Majah, la Mahdiyun illa Isa. There is no Mahdi except Isa. They're one and the same person. And so he ascribed the reformation and the revival of Islam to an individual who would bear certain characteristics. Mahdi means, there are two, Mahdi and Masih.
Yeah.
These are the two foremost. Yeah. Mahdi means the one who's guided by God, which means he must receive revelation, which means he must be a prophet of God. Because only a person who is a prophet of God receives revelation, is infallible, and must be accepted by all Muslims. And these are the characteristics of the Mahdi. And then his other title is Masih, right? So the one who would revive the faith in the same way that Isa alayhi salam, peace be upon him, did. And that tells us, that chimes very nicely, and I'll finish on this point because I know I've been talking for a bit, with the point of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that he said that you will become like the Jews as one shoe is equal to another shoe, saying to this ummah. In other words, the condition of the Muslims would become identical to the Jewish condition at the time of Jesus, peace be upon him. And that is why he said that there will come for you a Masih. It doesn't mean the same Messiah from 2,000 years ago. It means that as you will be like the Jews, similarly there will be a Messiah for you. Because if the problem, if the disease, if the spiritual and moral malady is the same, then the spiritual cure will be the same as well. Okay? So Muslims have misunderstood this in terms of thinking, oh, the same Messiah will come back. But no, that's not the case. And the Quran is quite clear that Isa alayhi salam from 2,000 years ago has died. So, in summary, the community of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community differs from other communities because we state that that individual, the Mahdi, the Masih, has come. His name was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be on him. He was born in 1835. He died in 1908. In 1889, he set up the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And it is that community, it is the only community since the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his immediate successors, that has had khilafat on the footsteps of prophethood, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stated. And we are now in the time of the fifth Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the fifth Khalifa, I should say, of the promised Messiah.